Progress.
We're up to the bottom line of Mem Gimel Amid Beis. Okay, so let's review. A Mishnah, there's a machlekes Tanoim in Gittin. If a girl who's 12 to 12 and a half, who could be makabel her divorce? So the Tanakama feels either she or her father. The review, this is no dafka the father. Okay, so it's a machlekes by divorce. The question is, what about Kiddushin? So Rish Lakish says the same machlekes by Kiddushin as Kiddushin. They're the same. Yatsa v'haisa. Kiddushin and Kiddushin are always the same. Rabbi Yochanan says no. The machlekes is dafka by divorce, but by Kiddushin divrei hakol. By Kiddushin divrei hakol, it doesn't work. Okay, meaning divrei hakol, the father has to do it, not the daughter herself. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's daf. According to Rish Lakish, it's a machlekes by Gerushin. Who is mekabel the divorce? Is it the father or her? According to the Rabbanon, it's the father or her. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's dafka the father. But by Kiddushin, says Rabbi Yochanan, L'kuli alma, the father has to receive the Kiddushin, not her. So we said, what would the difference be? Why would it be that Gerushin is a machlekes, but Kiddushin is divrei hakol, it's dafka. Kiddushin is divrei hakol, dafka the father. So we said, because Gerushin, when you mekabel Gerushin, you go into the father's domain, right? The second she becomes divorced, she goes back into her father's domain. So the father doesn't mind she's able to mekabel Gerushin because it's strengthening the father's position. But by Kiddushin, where when you mekabel Kiddushin, you leave the father's domain, that Rabbi Yochanan says it's the father's jurisdiction and no one else's. Okay, here's the problem. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's a machlokes. According to Rabbi Yochanan, by Kiddushin, divrei hakol, the father. Here's the problem. There's a concept called Maimer. Maimer is Kiddushin by Yibum. Yeah? So according to Rabbi Yochanan, if Kiddushin has to be done by the father, wouldn't Maimer also have to be done by the father? The problem is Maimer, if a girl's waiting to do Yibum, Maimer is Kiddushin for the Harei Mekudesh Asli, that, the Brisa says, can be given to her. So if Rabbi Yochanan is right that by Kiddushin it's universally accepted that it has to be the father, then why can Maimer go to her? So the Gemara says, Hari Maimer de mifkasatz m'shusavia. Maimer, which is leaving the father's jurisdiction, which Rabbi Yochanan just got finished saying everyone agrees it has to go to the father. Utznan, the Mishnah says, Kitana min eirisin ein oisim b'maimer l'medasavia. If she's under 12, the Maimer has to be given to the father. V'anaira, but 12 to 12 and a half, she can mekabel Maimer. So why is it that Kiddushin, you said, no, Kiddushin doesn't work because Kiddushin, she's leaving the father's domain. Well, Maimer, she's also leaving the father's domain, but Maimer, she can mekabel. So we have to change gears. Eliyit marhochiyit, we have to change approach. The approach now, we have to go back to try to understand Rabbi Yochanan. Why is it that by Gerushin, Gerushin is machlekes, whether she can mekabel Gerushin, but Kiddushin l'kuli alma the father. So first we said it's because Kiddushin leaves the father's domain. The problem is so does Maimer. So the Gemara says, okay, Eliyit mar hachi yitmar. Amar Rav Yesi Rav Chanina, my time is Rav Yochanan, Elib the Rabbanan. Kiddushin medaita avia v'loihi. Gerushin the bal karcha bein hi be'avia. You know what the difference is? Kiddushin has das. Therefore, you need the das of the person in charge, which is the father. Gerushin, which could be done against her will, you can give it to her or her father. Gerushin is easily accomplished, and therefore it can be given to her. But Kiddushin, which is das, which you need her consent, has to be done the father.
Aren't we, to support Reish Lakish, aren't we always, or most of the time, comparing how
Yes. And the Gemara is going to say that was Rish Lakish's. We don't follow him. But that was his, calling card. So the point is, the difference between Kiddushin and Gerushin is that Kiddushin is das. If it's das, you need the das of the person in charge, which is the father. Gerushin, which is bal karcha, could be done with her consent or with his consent. So the Gemara says, what about Maimer? Again, Maimer, the Brisa says, can be done by her. You tell me Kiddushin has to be done the father because it's das. Isn't Maimer also das? Doesn't Maimer also require das? And back to the same question, which is, if Kiddushin has to be the father, why can Maimer be done through her? So the Gemara says, Hari Maimer de medaita katani ben hiya ben avia. What's the difference in Maimer? So the answer is Hasam ben Maimer de bal karcha. The answer is Maimer could be done against the girl's will, according to Rabbi. According to Rabbi, Maimer is the only Kiddushin that could be done against her will because it's like Yibum, right? Yibum, if you live with the Yavam, you live with the Yavama against her will, you have relations with her against her will, obviously it's not a good thing to do, but it affects it. It's an effective Yibum. The question is, how do we treat Maimer? Does Maimer need Das? like all Kiddushin, or could it be done against her will, like Yibum? Rebbe's opinion is that Maimer could be done against her will. So Rebbe's going to say, we're going to say the case that Maimer, she could accept it, is when Maimer is done against her will, because it's like a divorce. The Gemara says, Shlomidaita Rebbe Omer. I'm sorry, Rebbe he. Tanya Oiser Maimer bivim to Shlomidaita. Let's say you throw money at the woman and say Harei Mekadesh Li, and she says no, but you throw it at her. Does it work? Rebbe Omer Kana. It works by Maimer. The Chamar Meloy Kana. Chum say it doesn't. Machlekes Rebbe and the Chacham. My time of the Rebbe. What's Rebbe's reasoning that it works? It's Kiddushin. The answer is Gama Mebia Diavama. He compares it to Yibum. Again, Maimer is the Kiddushin of Yibum. So the question is it Kiddushin dik or Yibum dik? My Bia Divam Bal Karcha Avachanam Bal Karcha. Rabban and Savi Afin Mekadushin. Ma Kiddushin Daita Avachanam Daita. Okay. So what's the machlekes about whether Maimer could be done against her will? Micah Mivlagi. Rabbi Savar Mili Divam Yivam Havil Melef. Rabbi feels it's more comparable to Yibum. Rabbanan Sabi Kiddushin Havil Melef, and the Rabbanan feel it's more Kiddushin dik. Okay. It's the Kiddushin of Yibum. It could be done against her will.
If it's Kiddushin, its basic concept is Kiddushin.
It's Kiddushin of Yibum. That's the point. Are you emphasizing the word Kiddushin or the Yibum part? So the Gemara says, so therefore to answer the question, really the distinction between Rav Yochanan, between Kiddushin and Gittin, that Gittin could be accepted by the daughter, but Kiddushin cannot, is because Kiddushin needs Das, and Gerushin cannot be Das. Maimer, we're talking about Bal Karchai. The Gemara says, Hachinam Mistabra, makes sense. Why? Because if you look at that law, that Mishnah that said that Maimer can be accepted by her, the end words of the Mishnah is Masha'en Kein B'Kedushin, as opposed to Kiddushin. So the Mishnah itself makes a distinction between Kiddushin and Maimer. What's the distinction? Maimer can be done against her will, Kiddushin cannot. Hachinami Mistabra, Midikatar, Mitaritz of Yechanan, Midiktani, Seifa Masha'en B'Kedushin. Okay, so that's the explanation. Now here's the problem. The Mishnah says that Maimer can be accepted by her, as opposed to Kiddushin, which implies that Kiddushin cannot be accepted by her. Isn't that a problem with Rish Lakish? Again, according to Rav Yochanan, his opinion is, by Gittin it's a machlekes, Kiddushin, Kuli Alma, no good. That's what this Mishnah means, Masha'en Kein B'Kedushin. Kiddushin has to be accepted by the father. According to Rish Lakish, though, he said what you said, which is Havai Litzia, which means the same way it's a machlekes by Gerushin, it's a machlekes by Kiddushin as well. So if it's a machlekes, that means that there's an opinion that holds that Kiddushin can be accepted by the daughter. So why does the Mishnah say Masha'en Kein B'Kedushin? The Kiddushin cannot be accepted by the daughter. According to Rish Lakish, it's a machlekes. So the Gemara says, Name etav v'tiyufta the Rish Lakish. Amalch Rish Lakish, Hamani Rabbi Yehudi. Dama ein shtei yadayim zeiches kachas. Rish Lakish says this Mishnah that says that Kiddushin cannot be accepted by her it's following Rabbi Yehuda. Rish Lakish feels it's a machlekes. This Mishnah, which says it has to be accepted by the father, is following Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda he feels everything has to be accepted by the father. Gittin, Kiddushin, everything. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, Masha'en Kein B'Kedushin, Masha'en Kein B'Gerushin Mibayle. Well, if it's Rabbi Yehuda, why does he say that Kiddushin is different? Everything is different. He feels the same way by Kiddushin, by Gerushin. Einachanami, yeah, you're right. I did Ditana, Maimer, the Damil Kiddushin, Tanami, Masha'en Kein B'Kedushin. The answer is, we're talking about Maimer, so he talked about Kiddushin. The truth is, according to Rabbi Yehuda, both Gittin and Kiddushin have to be accepted by the father. Now here's one last problem before we end this sugya. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Gittin has to be accepted by the father, Kiddushin has to be accepted by the father, but there's one exception, Maimer. Maimer can be accepted by her. Why is that? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda Maishna Maimer, why is that Maimer can be accepted by her? The answer is Hailus Kukave Medis. The answer is because there's Zika. She's already bound to him. Therefore, it's like not a formality, but it's not like creating anything new. Therefore, it can be accepted by her because there's Zika already. It's not like, So the Gemara says, well, if you had this answer, then we didn't need this entire Amud. Right? Because think about it, how did the Amud start? That Rav Yochanan says, the machlekes is by Gerushin, Kiddushin Divrei Kol, the father. We said, the Mishnah says Maimer, so we had to start getting into Terusim. The answer is, now you could just say Maimer is different, because there's Zika. You could have just answered, we didn't have to go through this entire process. We could have just said Maimer is different, because there's Zika. Fair enough. Tanan. Ha'ish mekadesh es bitoi kishihinaira Boy ubeshluchai. Our Mishnah said that a man can marry off his daughter when she's a naira. Notice it says the father. It never says she could. According to Rav Yochanan, that makes sense. But according to Rish Lakish, it's a machlokes. Again, according to Rav Yochanan, a naira cannot accept Kiddushin on her own. According to Rish Lakish, it's a machlokes. What does our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah says a father can marry her off. It never mentions her. It never says that she can mekabel Kiddushin. Tiyufta de Rish Lakish. Again, according to Rav Yochanan, that's a universally accepted point. According to Rish Lakish, it's a machlokes. Our Mishnah says no good. So that kind of sounds not like Rish Lakish. Amalach Rish Lakish Hanami Rav Yehudihi. The answer is our Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, who feels, again, according to Rish Lakish, it's not universally accepted that a girl can have mekabel Kiddushin. It's a machlokes. So our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda. Now, this next Gemara, I don't know why the Gemara is doing this, but the Gemara is now saying, so our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda. The problem is, our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda that a girl can have mekabel Kiddushin when she's a naira. Okay. Problem is, our Mishnah has another point at the end of the Mishnah that follows Rav Shimon. So who's the author of our Mishnah? Now, Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon are not actually addressing the same point. So you could just answer, it's Rav Shimon, but he agrees with Rav Yehuda, which is what the Gemara ends up saying, but it takes a little bit of time to get there. So right now you're saying our Mishnah is Rav Yehuda that a girl cannot be mekabel Kiddushin when she's a naira. Mi matzis mokim like Rav Yehuda. You're going to tell me our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda? He's the author of our Mishnah? I thought our Mishnah follows Rav Shimon. Now again, not related to the question of naira, but just a shaila. The shaila is like this. V'alktani seif, the Mishnah says later on, ha'imr li'isha, hiskachli b'tamara zu, hiskachli b'zu. You give a woman 2 dates. Right? And you say hiskachli b'zu. Each one is worth a half a pruta. Do they combine? So you gave her both dates, but the problem is you said hiskachli and hiskachi, you said 2 lashonos. Says the Mishnah, hiskachi b'zu, amrina matan hiskachi. Our Mishnah feels that saying hiskachi separates it. Meaning, if I would just say hiskachi b'zu u'b'zu, then I would be able to put together. But because I said hiskachi b'zu, it separates it. Who's the author that says that it separates it? It's Rav Shimon. So how could you say our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda? I thought it was Rav Shimon. Okay. Rav Shimon's opinion is, this is related. We know that if I'm supposed to watch something for you, I'm a shomer, and then you ask for it back, and I say, I don't know what you're talking about, and I lie, I'm chayav to bring a carbon for lying. Let's say I watch 5 of your things. All 5 of you ask me to watch something, and then you all ask me at the same time, and I say, I don't know what you're talking about. Shvua. Bazu. Meaning, I swear, I don't know this, that. Am I chayav 1 carbon or 5? Rav Shimon's opinion is that it's only a separate carbon if you said shvuazu, and that's the Mishnah. Hiskachi bazu separates it. Shvua bazu separates it. So how could our Mishnah be Rav Yehuda? It's Rav Shimon. That's the kasha. And don't say that our Mishnah follows Rav Yehuda, but Rav Yehuda holds like Rav Shimon when it comes to the hiskachili bazu, because as we're going to see in a moment, Rav Yehuda disagrees with Rav Shimon. Rav Yehuda's opinion is that if you say shvua zu, you might be chayav 5. So our Mishnah cannot be Rav Yehuda; it has to be Rav Shimon. So the Gemara's, by the way, conclusion in a minute is going to be our Mishnah is Rav Shimon. And Rav Shimon agrees with Rav Yehuda when it comes to a girl at 12 years old being mekabel Kiddushin, which is a very simple solution. Okay, the Gemara says v'hatanya zeh haklal. The question again is the discussion is 5 people are asking me for their pikadon, and I swear to all 5 that I don't know what you're talking about. I am lying to all 5. The question is, am I chayav 1 carbon or 5 carbonas? And it's very much contingent on the lashon that I use. So this is the machlokes. Klal einoi chayav al achas, prat chayav al kol achas v'achas divrei Ramir. Ramir says a cryptic line which is more discussed in Maseches Shavuos, that he says if you specify, meaning if I just say to all 5 of you, I don't know what you're talking about, that's 1 shvuah, 1 carbon. But if I say, I know what you're talking about, 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 5 carbonas. That's what Meir's take. Rav Yehuda Omer, shvuah loylach chayav kol achas v'achas. Rav Yehuda's take is, you don't have to say shvuah zu. As long as you say shvuah in the beginning, so you say, I swear to you, chayav 5. But let's say I say, you, I swear, 1. He has the shvuah has to be in the beginning of the statement. Rav Eliezer disagrees. He says, no, the shvuah could be at the end. So I could say, to you, I swear. And I'm chayv all 5. And then you have Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon says, you're only chayv separate karbanos if you say shvuah zu, shvuah zu, shvuah zu. So our Mishnah, which says hiskachili bizu, follows Rav Shimon. So how can our Mishnah follow Rav Shimon and also follow Rav Yehuda? The answer is, Kula Rav Shimon he, ub'shlichus al Rav Yehuda. The answer is our Mishnah follows Rav Shimon. And Rav Shimon agrees with Rav Yehuda when it comes to a girl at 12 years old that she can makabel Kiddushin. Rav Asi lo'ola be medrasha. Again, we had a machlekes Rav Yochanan Rish Lakish. Machlekes Rav Yochanan Rish Lakish, whether a girl that's 12 years old can be makabel Kiddushin. Rav Asi lo'ol lebeis medrash. Rav Asi did not go to beis medrash. Ashkechil Rav Zera. So he meets Rav Zera. Amrli my Amr hidden be medrash. He said, what did they learn in the beis medrash? Amrli Afan no I didn't go either. But Rav Avin who da'il. Rav Avin went. V'Amar, and he said, Chavrusa kula k'Rav Yochanan. Everyone followed Rav Yochanan that Kiddushin is different than Gerushin. That Gerushin is a machlokes, but Kiddushin the girl cannot be makabel. Reish Lakish v'tzavach Reish Lakish k'krukya, and Reish Lakish was screaming like a rooster. V'yotza v'haisa, that you compare the two. How do we separate? What you said. V'lek echashpei, but no one listened to Reish Lakish. Okay. Amarle Rav Avin bar Samchahu. See, he said.
Does Reish Lakish ever went over?
Yeah.
Rav Yochanan?
Yeah. We generally pass like Rav Yochanan, but there are cases where we pass like Rav Yochanan. So he says, Rav Avin bar Samchahu, can I trust Rav Avin? Amarle in kimin yamel tignihu. It just happened. It's like pulling a fish out of water. Meaning it just happened right away. Yeah, he remembers it well. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, anole Rav Avin bar Chia, v'le Rav Avin bar Kahana, el Rav Avin Stam. He says the Rav Avin that they're quoting is not Rav Avin bar Chia, or it's not Rav Avin bar Kahana, it's Rav Avin Stam. What's the difference? For contradictory purposes, you got to know who's quoting it so you can make a stira. So it's not Rav Avin bar Chia, it's Rav Avin Stam. Okay. Rav Nachman. Rav asked Rav Nachman the following question. Let's go to the next page. According to the Rabbanon, a girl who's 12 could be makabel Kiddushin. The question is, could she appoint a shliach? The father could be makabel Kiddushin and appoint a shliach to makabel Kiddushin. Is it that she could just be makabel Kiddushin, or she could even send a shliach to makabel Kiddushin? What's the shaila? According to the Rabbanon, that a 12-year-old can be makabel Kiddushin, could she even appoint a shliach? What's the shaila? Kiyada via damya, is she like her father's hand? Meaning, just like her father can makabel Kiddushin with her shliach, she also could appoint a shliach? Or no, perhaps she's just like a chotzer. She could just receive, but she can't appoint a shliach. Right? A chotzer can't appoint a shliach. That's the question. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, you're telling me that there's a possibility that she's a chotzer for her father? Here's the problem. Rabbi's opinion is that a person cannot be a chotzer for another person. Let's say a slave, right? A slave is like a chotzer, like a, masha kana eved kana rabbi. It can't be working from the fundamentals of chotzer, because that's called a chotzer shaloi mishtameris medaita, meaning a chotzer is an inanimate object. Therefore, it has one thing and one thing only, and that is, it serves you. People are different. You cannot have a person being a chotzer. It doesn't work. The Gemara says, so how, you tell me there's a possibility that she's a chotzer for her father? No way, she's not a chotzer. People can't be chatzerim. So the Gemara says, does Rava actually believe for a possibility that she's a chotzer? Rava said, let's say I give a get to a woman's slave. So you'll say, it should work. So it says the Brisa, Yoshan umishmar dareza get. Near ain't a get. It doesn't work when the slave's awake. Why? Near amay ain't a get. To have a chotzer mishtamer shlomidaita. Because although the slave is a chotzer, but it's a chotzer that doesn't have your best interest in mind. You see, every chotzer has my best interest in mind because it's an inanimate object. But a person is a chotzer that's called a mishtamer shlomidaita. A person is a chotzer that has his own best interest in mind. So Rabbi's opinion is that a person cannot be a full chotzer. So you tell me that the daughter is a chotzer of the father? Then how does it work? It's a chotzer mishtamer shlomidaita. She's a chotzer that has her own best interest, not her father's best interest. So how could she be a chotzer? So the Gemara says, you're right, take it back. Everyone agrees that the daughter is not a chotzer. She's an extension of the father. The question is, when Chazal allowed the daughter to makabel Kiddushin, did they give her the power to appoint a shliach as well? Just am a shayla. It's not do chotzer or yad. Everyone agrees that the girl is an extension of the father. The question is, does she have the power to appoint a shliach? The Gemara says, "Eloilam shita leidich yad avia damya. Hachikam yiboyle mialim yad avia l'shavi shliach eloi." The question is, does she have the power to appoint a shliach? Amar le, ein ois a shliach, cannot appoint a shliach.
How would that work with the Eved Kanani, whether he's sleeping or awake? I mean,
Because when he's sleeping, he doesn't have his own interest in mind. Then he becomes an inanimate object.
I know, but it becomes like a huge problem whether this get is good. I mean,
Oh, that's a good point. You'd have to have Adim. You'd have to have Adim that would be able to attest to the fact that he was sleeping. You're right. It's a good point. It would be a practical nightmare. Yeah. Okay. Now here's the problem. You're telling me right now that a naira, yeah.
Just do it properly from the start.
It's half a shas can be, Here's the deal. We're saying right now that a girl who's 12 years old, a 12-year-old girl, although she can mekabel Kiddushin, she cannot appoint a shliach. Okay? Here's the problem. Esrei Avakasha. Kitana she'amra hiskabel igiti. Right? If let's say I have a girl who's under bat mitzvah, and she tells someone to please be mekabel a get for her, the halacha is she cannot appoint a shliach. Right? Normally, if an adult person, right, an adult woman who says, "Give me mekabel a get for me," the second you get it, she's divorced because you're shliach. A girl under bat mitzvah cannot appoint a shliach. Therefore, she's not divorced until it reaches her hand. So the shliach gets it; it's not a divorce until it reaches her hand. Okay. The implication is hanaira harezagen. The implication is that a girl who's 12 years old could appoint a shliach, right? It's saying that a ketana cannot appoint a shliach. What's the implication? A naira, a girl 12 to 12 and a half, could appoint a shliach. Again, we had a shiloh. When a girl's 12 to 12 and a half, either with her Kiddushin or Gittin, whatever she's allowed to receive, can she appoint a shliach? We said no. This brisa says a girl under bat mitzvah cannot appoint a shliach. The implication is that a girl 12 to 12 and a half could appoint a shliach. I thought that she doesn't have the power to appoint a shliach because they didn't give her that right. She has the power to receive it while her father's alive, but she can't appoint a shliach. The Gemara says, Hanaira reza get, that implication is that a girl who's 12 to 12 and a half could appoint a shliach. So the Gemara says no. The case is where her father died. Meaning, when her father's alive, she can't appoint a shliach. This brisa implies that she could. The brisa is talking about a case where she has no father. If she has no father, of course she could. The reason why she can't appoint a shliach when she's 12 to 12 and a half is because she's under her father's domain. If her father died, of course she could appoint a shliach. She's above bat mitzvah.
What about her brothers or mother?
They don't have the power. Biblically, no. It's dafka the father. So again, the shaila was a girl 12 to 12 and a half whose father is still alive, can she appoint a shliach to mekabel the get? So we said, no, she can't appoint a shliach. But this brisa says she could. The brisa is talking about a case where her father died. Wait a minute. Here's the problem. Look at the end of that brisa. The end of the brisa says that if a father sends a shliach, it's a divorce the second the shliach gets it. So you're telling me the cases where there is no father, but the end of the brisa says there is a father. So is the brisa talking about a case where she's an orphan or not? So the answer is there are words missing in the brisa. This is how you're supposed to read the brisa. Again, we're saying that the brisa's case where she could appoint a shliach is where she has no father. But then the end of the brisa says, if the father sends a shliach, it's a good shliach. So is the father dead or not? So the answer is you have to add words to the brisa. This is how you're supposed to read the brisa. A ketana under bat mitzvah cannot appoint a shliach. Okay. Hanaira hareza get, which the implication is that a girl who's 12 to 12 and a half could send a shliach, bamed varmum shein la'av. But when are we talking about a case where she could appoint a shliach? Is dafka where she's ein la'av. It's dafka where she's an orphan. Avayesh la'av. But if she has a father, v'omer aviyat sevek kabbalagiti roitza balachsel yachzer. But if she has a father, she can't. But the father could appoint a shliach. So that's how you have to read the brisa. Something like that.
It seems kind of intuitive.
That what?
Like you don't have to fix anything. It's not.
Yeah, it's not the biggest cash in the world. You have to add that one line just so that it flows a little bit better. True. One last sugya, and it's tricky in trying to understand like what's going on. It's not a complicated concept. It's like this. Let me just explain one quick point. If a girl is married under bat mitzvah by her father, it's a biblical marriage, and you need a get doraisa. There's a concept called miyun. Miyun is if she's an orphan under bat mitzvah and her brother marries her off or her mom marries her off. That's a rabbinic marriage. You don't need a get. You just say, Miyun, I want to leave. And then an annulment. So biblical marriage needs a get. Rabbinic marriage, under bat mitzvah, annulment. Okay, here's the case. The case is like this. We've had a shaila. Can a girl 12 to 12 and a half be makabel her own get? It's machlokes. What about girl under bat mitzvah? Can she take her own get? Can she receive her own get or her own Kiddushin? Definitely no. Definitely. L'kuli alma no good. What if she did? Meaning, what if a guy goes over to a girl who's 11 years old? Again, she has a father, she's not an orphan, and gives her Kiddushin. And she takes it. Is she married at all? So you say, no, it's nothing. But here's the halacha. Okay. You have a girl who's under bat mitzvah, who is mekabel Kiddushin without her father's knowledge. What's the halacha? So I would say nothing. Omer Shmuel, tzricha get u'tzricha miyan. Shmuel says you need both a get and miyan. Okay. First of all, why do you need anything? But definitely, why do you need a get and miyan? Get is when it's a biblical marriage. Miyan is when it's a rabbinic marriage. Why would you ever need both? So she has to get a divorce document and then she has to officially say in front of Beis Din, I want to end this marriage. So she does a miyan and she does a get. That's Shmuel's opinion. So the question is, why would you ever need both? First of all, why need anything? But definitely why need both? So that's Shmuel's take. Amar Karna, they tell Karna was a Rav. They tell Karna Shmuel's opinion. He says, Dvarim Bagav. He says, what's going on over here? Im get lama miyan and miyan lama get. Why would you ever need both? So Amar Lei, Hamar Ukva ubeidina bekafri apchua and shadru l'kamei de Rav. So it's interesting. Mar Ukva was trying to figure out Shmuel's opinion that you need both a get and a miyan. He sent the statement to Rav, but instead he reversed the opinions on purpose. He wanted to see what Rav would say. So instead of hearing that Shmuel says you need a get and a miyan, they sent to Rav that Shmuel holds you don't need a get and a miyan. What are you paskin? So Rav hears this. Amar Lahu, Helikim, I swear, tzricha get tzricha miyan. Rav's like, you need a get and a miyan. And I can't believe Shmuel didn't agree with me. But then ended up Shmuel actually did, but they reversed the names on him. The point is, both Rav and Shmuel are universally are in lockstep that you need a get and a miyan. The question is why? Time am I? So here's the deal. Why do you need anything? She's under bar mitzvah. The answer is because we're afraid that when the case is, Rashi says the case is, they tell the father, you know your daughter who's 11 years old just makabel Kiddushin from your neighbor, and he didn't say anything. You see, if he would have said, great, then that's him signing off on it. It's a biblical marriage. If he would have said, absolutely not, then it's nothing. The case is he's quiet. So the shaila is, that's the question. So therefore you need a get, let's talk this out. You need a get because maybe the father is cool with it, in which case it's a biblical marriage. But on the other hand, maybe it's not a biblical marriage, and she's not a divorcee. And you'll say, what's the big deal of giving her a get? I'll tell you why it's negeh. If you divorce a woman, you can't marry her sister. So let's say later he's going to give money to the sister, even Kadesh's slave, and they're going to say, you can't marry the sister, you divorced the other sister, it's not a good Kiddushin, which it is a good Kiddushin. So therefore, you basically have to say, you have to give a get, because maybe it's a good Kiddushin. On the other hand, because it might not be a good Kiddushin, you have to say miyan. And what that's going to do is it's going to alert the Rabbanim that this is not a classic divorcee, and they'll look into it. So says the Gemara like this, Taimamai, Amar Rav Acha B'rei Ravika, Tzricha get, Shemin Esratza Abi Kiddushin. You need a get because maybe the father signed off on it. But on the other hand, maybe she's not married. And we don't want her to just get divorced, mechumra, because then over time people are not going to remember that it's a chumra, and they're just going to think she's a full divorcee and have all those halachic ramifications. And therefore, do miyun, because that will alert the Rabbanim, saying that this is not a regular case, look into this. So,
the miyun document is different?
No, miyun is just an oral statement in front of Beis Din. Because it's in front of Beis Din. I'm sure Beis Din probably wrote it down. It's in front of Beis Din. The word will get out there.
Just can't ask the father.
Correct. Well, he was quiet, so maybe whatever. I don't. And then maybe he, yeah. So that's the halacha. So the Gemara says, now again, this whole possibility that you need to get is because again the case is where someone was mekadesh an 11-year-old, they tell the father and he's quiet. The possibility that you need to get is because maybe the father's cool with it. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, v'hu sheshidchu. It's dafka in a case of shidduchim, which means. Why would we think that a father would be cool with this? Even though he's quiet. Maybe he was quiet because he thinks it's ridiculous. The case is where there's shidduchim. Shidduchim means that they had already spoken to the father previously about this and he had signed off on it. Shidduchim means that you had talked about it, they had arranged it. So now, this time he's taka didn't say anything, but there's previous information that would indicate that he's cool with it. Ula Amar, afilu miyan ein tzricha. Ula says, I actually, in this shaila, I don't think you need miyan. Ula's opinion is you don't need anything. A girl under bar mitzvah is nothing. So says the Gemara, Afagav de shidchu. Did Ula say his opinion even when there's shidduchim? Even when there's shidduchim, you definitely should need something. So says the Gemara, man de masniha lo masniha. The answer is when Ula was told about the case, it was without shidduchim. If there was shidduchim, he would need something. Ikadamri, some have a different version. Amar Ula kitanish and eskach ledasavi afilu miyan ein tzricha. Ula says no, you never need miyan. Now here's the point. According to Ula, it makes a lot of sense. You don't need a get because she's under bar mitzvah. You don't need miyan because Ula's like, where do we find miyan when a dad's alive? We don't. So again, we're doing this just like miyan is just like, oh, do miyan because to alert that something's strange here. But Ula's like, where do we find miyan when the father's alive? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you where you find miyan when the father's alive. The first Mishnah in Yavamis. Let me explain outside, and then we'll end with this. The first Mishnah in Yavamis is as follows. You have a man who has a wife. He has two wives. Brother dies, those two wives fall to Yibam. One of the wives is an erva to the brother. So what's an example? You have Reuben and Shimon are brothers. Reuben has a daughter. Shimon marries Reuben's daughter. He marries his niece. Okay? So he has two wives. One is his niece and one is Leah. He dies, so now Rachel and Leah are falling to Reuben. One is his daughter, because again, his daughter married his brother. So his daughter is falling to Yibam. So not only is she exempt from Yibam, she exempts her co-wife as well. That's the first Mishnah. But says the Mishnah, what happens if the erva did miyun? Meaning, let's say the erva, all the ervas, achaisa, yishta, whatever, all the 15 arayas. What if the marriage was, she was under bat mitzvah when she got married, it was a rabbinic marriage, and she did miyun. So then, she doesn't count. Poof, you remove her from the case, and then the other one does yibam. Now that works with most cases, but think about the case I just told you. Reuben and Shimon are brothers. Reuben has a daughter, Rachel. Shimon marries Rachel, marries his niece. He also marries Leah. Then, so if he dies and falls to Yibam, they're both exempt. But before he dies, Rachel does miyun. So poof, she's out of the picture, Leah does Yibam. How is she doing miyun when her dad's alive? The whole case is that the father is still alive and kicking. So how is there miyan? So yes, there could be miyan by the other 14 cases of the Mishnah, but that case, how is there miyan? So you see, there could be miyan when the father's alive. So the Gemara says, Masiv, Rav Kahana says, Kasha, you telling me there's no miyan when the father's alive? Look at the first Mishnah of Yavamis. The kulana meisoi miyanu in neskar shoishin imtu island is serisein mutaris. It says that if any of the ervas, before the case of Yibam arises, if they either died, got divorced, were an islandess, so it's a mekachtai, so they're never married, or did miyun, they're out of the picture, and the co-wife does yibum. One of the cases is a father. So that means that there's miyun when the father's alive. Well, the kudsha man, ilim is the kudsha avia. So how did she get married? How did she marry the brother, the uncle, her uncle? How did she marry the uncle? If her father signed off on it, then miyun's not going to help. That's a biblical marriage. You need a divorce. Get malya boy. Elav the kudsha inavsha. Ikutani de boy miyun. It must be. It's this case. The case is where her uncle gave her the money when she was under bat mitzvah. Yeah. The father was quiet. And you see, miyun is a possibility. So you see there's a miyun when the father's alive. So the Gemara says, no. One with this. The case is really, there is never miyun when the father's alive. There's miyun in this case. The case is where, very, very simple. When the father's dead, there could definitely be miyun. When the father's alive, she cannot, according to Ula, she can't be makabel her own Kiddushin. The only Kiddushin she can makabel is her dad, and that you need a real get. So how would you ever have miyan? I'll tell you how you could have miyan when the father's alive. And that is, she's 10 years old, the father marries her off to someone. Biblical marriage. She gets divorced. The second she gets divorced from the first marriage, she is no longer in her father's jurisdiction, but she's still under bat mitzvah. That's how you could have miyan. That the only case you could have miyan when the father's alive, her father married her off when she's 10. Biblical marriage. Then she got divorced. The second she gets divorced, she's no longer in her father's jurisdiction, but she's still under bat mitzvah. That's a marriage that if she's makabel kedushin on her own, it's a rabbinic marriage that you could have miyan. That's the way you could have miyan while the father's alive. So it doesn't have to be that you're makabel kedushin and the father heard about it and didn't say. No, the case is She was Mekabel Kiddushin. Her father's alive. How is that possible? Because her father had already married her off. He already played the card. Once she already had Nisuin, then that's it. You're out of your father's jurisdiction. But she's still under Bar Mitzvah. That's the possibility. I will stop here.